December 12th. To check my watch, can't remember the date. And it's time for the income report for the previous month, being November 2019. So it's important to keep in mind that November is one of, if not the best ad revenue months, probably affiliate months as well, thanks to Black Friday and the lead up to Christmas and the holiday season when shopping is a major activity. So let's jump through the numbers. Let's get right to the heart of it. And I want to make sure I disclaim that none of these numbers are fatstacksblog.com. I don't include any revenue or expenses from that. That's not relevant to these income reports. The income reports pertain solely to 7 niche sites numbered conveniently, niche site 1 through 7. So we'll kick off with the 4 larger ones and wrap up with the smaller ones. So November, as you can imagine, was a very, very good month. You monetized mostly with display ads and Ezoic in particular. Now, that niche site number for number 1, actually for all the niche sites there except for 2, it's important to keep in mind, and I'll set that out. There is a large expense tied to that, so it's a huge increase from the previous month, but I had to pay a fairly hefty fee to get into the premium ads program at Ezoic. So while it definitely increased revenue substantially, there is an expense to it, and I will explain that when we get to expenses. So overall revenue was up by a lot. So niche site 2 is mostly affiliate revenue, though. Just keep in mind that's one of that is my oldest site, still chugging along nicely. Actually, display ad revenue is starting to climb. Traffic's climbing a little bit. Pretty happy about that. And the other sites grew. I don't even think they grew. I think they actually dropped a touch, but that was because of a traffic drop, and I'll also discuss that toward the end because I did suffer a traffic drop, which is not good. The last 3 sites, as you can see, are very, very small niche sites. I'm kicking them along. We'll see what happens to them. I am putting some effort into niche site 6 in 2020, and I'll explain that. So total revenue was $64,211. Most of that's display ad revenue. I have screenshots in the income report for November 2019 at fatstacksblog.com. You can check that out. Moving on to the expenses, I'm not going to list them all here, but the big ones would be hosting with Kinsta is $1,200 a month. Now here's that Ezoic premium ads cost. I had to pay $9,140 to get into the premium ads. That's the fee to Ezoic to get higher earning ads on the site. The profit from those premium ads was a little over $12,000, so it was right around a $3,000 profit. But I still had to pay to get into that, and but it resulted in higher revenue, big time. What I also did in November is I do this every year, every couple of years. I give a really good effort at doing some paid ads to do some paid traffic to some niche sites, and I shoveled $2,800 into that, and it was a total bust, which I'll explain toward the end of this. It's unfortunate, but paid traffic to niche sites, especially monetized with display ads, is not an easy thing. Used to be easy, not anymore. Finally, a fairly significant expense of mine are virtual assistants. I have several that work with me, and they're very, very good, been with me for quite some time, and that's $3,250. Total expenses $17,621, but please keep in mind that does not include my content expense, which I'll get into. Net income before content is $46,590. Now, content investment went up for a fair amount. Outsourced to agencies with $6,000, in-house writer $2,500, and product purchases for reviews is $4,300. I went a little crazy on Black Friday. I saved a ton of money. What I'm doing is for some of those smaller niche sites, 2 in particular, I am buying a whole bunch of products within a couple of product lines. And in 2020, I've actually started already, but in 2020, I plan to do some extensive buyer intent content, which would be product reviews, product comparisons, that sort of thing, even doing some videos for those. And that's going to be a big push in 2020. I'm going to monetize with both affiliate and display ads in that content. So I consider that content investment because essentially that is part of the expense for producing that content. The content expenses were $12,800. Now, if net income after all of that is $33,790. I do have an article on FatSox blog that I wrote some time ago suggesting that content that is geared toward future revenue is not necessarily an expense. It's more of an investment. It's a subtle accounting distinction. I think it's an important distinction, especially when going to sell a website. So that's why I break it out, and I have two net income figures. I have net income from your basic overhead and direct variable expenses pertaining to the current running of a niche business, and then the content portion, which is really an investment into the future of a website. I'm not going to get into all the different arguments for that. I did write a blog post on that at FatStocks, and that's why I break those apart. So I want to wrap up with some developments that happened in November. What would an income report be without developments? I had three major developments in November, and the first was a 15% traffic drop. Most of that was for my biggest niche site. It was a solid 15%, which hurts. It's not catastrophic, fortunately, but it hurts. And I chalk it up to that around November 6th, November 8th, November Google update. I'm not sure if that was an extension of the BERT Google update. I'm not sure. I don't think there's really much I can do. It's considered a core Google update. It doesn't mean that the site is bad. It doesn't mean that the site is penalized. It simply means that there is a shuffle in search, and I happen to be on the short end of the stick and suffered 15% drop, which sucks because I've invested a lot in the content this year, and only to come to this point where traffic drops, well, that's not very good. But I suppose I could look at it, and if I hadn't invested in content, traffic would be lower. I also mentioned I did some paid traffic to some of my sites. I wanted to see if I could profit from paid traffic. I have in the past, a few years ago. Lots of sites used to do it then, especially when Facebook traffic was very, very cheap, along with some others like Outbrain and Yahoo Gemini. Anyways, I gave it a good run. I tried Facebook, Outbrain, Quora for the first time. That was interesting. Yahoo Gemini, and Pinterest. I actually did Pinterest. It's been a long time since I tried paid. Pinterest was actually very good. Super cool platform to use. Very simple to use. Blew through a daily budget almost instantly. The trouble is that it was the cost per click was quite high, so that didn't work out, unfortunately. But I could imagine if one could make Pinterest work. That is a really slick platform. And so what I have concluded, especially with this 15% traffic drop to my largest site, my two mid-sized sites also suffered a slight drop. I don't think it was quite 15%. Is that it's time to diversify a little bit more. I have a handful of sites, three of which I've been kicking along, and they're not growing. The fourth site is very slowly growing. So it's time to pour some gasoline on those, and I'm going to redirect a little bit of resources from Site 1 into these other sites. And the reason for that is to diversify. I mean, Site 1, which is something I have put years into, and I put time every day into it, making it as good as I can, and yet it suffers a 15% drop, tells me that there are obviously aspects to this that are beyond my control, and a safe way to proceed is to diversify and have other sites that are actually earning quite a bit of money. Now, it's going to take time to get those sites to start performing really well. It's probably going to take a year or two before they really see any good growth, but I might as well start now. Site 1 is still doing spectacularly well, and so I'm very happy about that, but I definitely have to think to the future 2-3 years down the road, and that means putting time and money into the other sites. And so that's what I'm doing. That's what the big product buy on Black Friday was all about. I bought enough product that I probably can squeeze out at least 100 articles, I suspect, which is great. And here's a really good tip. You buy a handful of products, whether they're $20 products, $100 products, $300 products, that would add up. But the point is, when you actually buy the products and you photograph the products and you video the products and you become the expert in a particular product line for your niche, This can form a lot of great content. I'm not talking, you're not just going to be able to do reviews, but you can do comparison charts, you can do how-tos, you can do tutorials, there is a lot that you can squeeze out of a product purchase. So keep that in mind. And in my practice is I'm not going to title anything a review unless I've used it. Sometimes I do a free trial of something. If it's a software review, I think a free trial is totally legit. But when it comes to physical products, I like to use it. I like to try it and test it before I write about it. That's a wrap on the November 2019 income report. Thanks for watching.